The Lockhart Perspective.
Well, hello and welcome to Headlines with a Voice, TLP Headlines with a Voice and the Lockhart Perspective. I am your host, Felicia Lockhart, and I want to thank each and every one of you for tuning in today. We are looking at family matters. Well, family matters, and that we're transitioning from them being arch rivals, Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, to bringing to light the fact that all of us know that they are relatives. We're looking at two families today. We're looking at two stories today and how they play a role in, well, let's just take a look. Donald Trump sues Hillary Clinton over the 2016 Russian collusion allegations. That's what this says. It goes on to say that Donald Trump on Thursday sued his rival in the 2016 presidential election, Hillary Clinton, and several other Democrats, alleging that they tried to rig that election by tying his campaign to Russia. The lawsuit covers a long list of grievances the Republican former president repeatedly aired during his 4 years while he was in the White House after beating Clinton, and comes as he continues to claim that his 2020 election defeat by Democratic President Joe Biden was the result of widespread fraud. Quote, acting in concert, the defendants maliciously conspired to weave a false narrative that the Republican opponent Donald J. Trump was colluding with a hostile foreign sovereignty, close quote, the former president alleged in his 108-page lawsuit filed in federal court in Florida. The suit alleges racketeering and conspiracy to commit injurious falsehood, among other claims. The Clinton representative did not respond to a request for comment. The suit seeks compensatory damages as well as punitive damages. Trump said that he was forced to incur expenses in the amount to be determined at trial, but known to be in excess of $24 million and continuing to accrue in the form of defense costs, legal fees, and related expenses. Jeff Grill, a lawyer who specializes in racketeering cases, said Trump may have waited too long in bringing the racketeering claims. Civil racketeering claims are governed by a 4-year statute of limitations, Grill said, but there is usually a big dispute about when that time starts and ends, right? And you and I probably, you know this, is that they're probably looking at when was the person notified or when did they know, things of that nature. It goes on to say that Grill said the defendants may also argue various defenses, such as that Trump's lawsuit ignores the immunity granted to government agents. These are very important points to note. Okay, very important points to note. The lawsuit does not set forth a pattern of racketeering which is required for liability, or the lawsuit seeks to chill the exercise of free speech. Such defenses are usually resolved only after protracted litigation, Grill says. The defendants in Trump lawsuits include Christopher Steele, a former British intelligence officer. The dossier written by Steele was circulated to the FBI and the media outlets before the November 2016 election. Set out unproven assertions. It set out unproven assertions that Russia had embarrassing information about Trump and some of his Republican campaign advisors, and that Moscow was working behind the scenes to defeat Clinton. A 966-page report issued by a Republican-led U.S. Senate committee in 2020 concluded that Russia used the Republican political operative Paul Manafort and WikiLeaks website to try to help Trump win the 2016 election. Manafort worked on Trump's presidential campaign for about 5 months in 2016. Russia's alleged election interference, which Moscow denies, sparked a 2-year-long U.S. investigation headed by special counsel Robert Mueller. In 2019, Mueller released an exhaustive report that detailed numerous links between the Russian government and the Trump campaign, but did not charge any Trump associates with a criminal conspiracy. Mueller said in his report, quote, the Russian government perceived that it would benefit from a Trump presidency and worked to secure that outcome, and that campaign expected it would benefit electorally from information stolen and released through Russian efforts. That's the first story, and I want to hold my commentary for the very end. The next story that we're looking at is from another family group of individuals, and it's none other than the Biden administration, the son. Okay? This is where all of the journalists, according to TND, ate crow. Okay. Journalists lose face after the New York Times confirms that Hunter Biden's emails not Russian disinformation. Journalists, Democrats, and anti Trump commentators insisted the story about Hunter Biden's laptop, which allegedly contained emails showing that he engaged in potentially illegal foreign business dealings, was Russian disinformation. Major social media companies did the same and blocked the story from their platforms for various lengths of time. As a matter of fact, here is a tweet that comes from Chip Franklin.com. He's got a little blue check mark, so I guess we should trust him. But what it says is, raise your hand if you appreciate Twitter for censoring the BS anti-Biden disinformation article from the New York Post. And he's got a hand raised. The date was October the 14th of 2020. And then the next one, it comes from Wajahat Ali. He's got another little shiny blue mark. It says, good. Russian disinformation meant to harm our democracy shouldn't be given mainstream platforms. The story goes on with, but now many of those individuals and entities are eating their words in light of the New York Times report released on Wednesday night, which indicated the laptop and its emails were indeed legitimate. Quote, people familiar with the investigation said prosecutors had examined emails between Mr. Biden and Mr. Archer and others about Burisma and other foreign business activities. The Times writes, those emails were obtained by the New York Times from a cache of files that appears to have come from a laptop abandoned by Mr. Biden in a Delaware repair shop. The email and others in the cache were authenticated by people familiar with them and with the investigation. Now, the Times piece even contradicted some of its own previous reporting, downplaying the legitimacy of the story, according to the New York Post, which was first reported in the news in Hunter's Biden laptop back in 2020. So, just to clarify what I'm saying, they first reported this news back in 2020 about the laptop, okay? The Post broke the story leading up to the presidential election between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. Following the purported revelations about Hunter Biden's alleged corrupt foreign business dealings derived from what the Times has now determined was an abandoned laptop belonging to Hunter Biden, criticism of the story rained down. It was widely argued, especially among Democrats, that the laptop and the emails were nothing less than fake Russian disinformation meant to meddle with the upcoming U.S. presidential election. Quote, we don't want to waste our time on stories that are not really stories, and we don't want to waste our listeners' and our readers' time on stories that are pure distractions, that are just pure distractions. Now, this comes from NPR's managing editor for the news, Terrence Samuel. He goes on to say, and quite frankly, that's where we ended up. This was a politically driven event, and we decided to treat it that way. There's the tweet. That's what he had to say. Now, in light of New York Times Wednesday night's report, the national desk of this company that we're reading from, TND, reached out to NPR to ask if Samuel had any comment regarding his previous statement. You see, TND wanted to know if he planned to retract his statement, apologize, or resign. But has not heard back anything from them. And according to this article, they said that if they receive any information, that it'll be added to the story. Samuel wasn't the only journalist parroting these claims. Many others in his profession argue that the laptop was definitely Russian disinformation meant to disrupt our electoral process. And here are several other tweets, as well as them showing here Brian Stelter from CNN making a whole entire segment on it, calling it fake news. This, by the way, was just recent as September of 2021, that this report that you see here on the screen was brought to light. Now, it goes on to say that I don't even think that it's necessary for us to even go on with what it goes on to say, but I'll read it. It says it's a disgrace that the New York Times is just abruptly deciding now that the Hunter Biden laptop is legit. This was tweeted from Emma Jo Morrison, who was formerly with the New York Post and is now the politics editor at Breitbart. Quote, not bothering to correct and retract previous baseless smears, just casually ignoring its own previous claims and hoping that you don't notice, closed quote. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki was asked about the New York Times confirmation of Hunter Biden's emails during a news conference on Wednesday, and she said, quote, well, I would point you to the Department of Justice and also to Biden's representatives. He doesn't work for the government, she responded. Sinclair investigative correspondent James Rosen was the first to reveal an active DOJ investigation into money laundering allegations against Hunter Biden in late 2020. Now, why do I call this particular story that I'm bringing with you today the Family Matters? Because, yes, it is Biden and son, but it's also President, former President Trump and his cousin, Hillary Clinton. What I feel is that they are both the Biden administration and the former Clinton administration and the powers that be, who sort of play with the marionette strings. I believe that what's going on in this situation is that they are now throwing these stories under the bus and quite possibly the people who go along with it because they know they stand greater to lose. Because if you and I don't stay distracted thinking about other things that are now going up under the wire, if we don't look at those things, then we're probably not going to be the putty in their hands that they want us to be. Here's what I do know. What I do know is that just recently there have been massive amounts of approvals for unique stuff. We'll just put that way, and you follow along with me if you will. But there have been a lot of different approvals of lowering ages, and there have been requests for ages to be reduced on things such as these. Reduced ages. They've even come out just recently and decided, hey, you know what? Why don't we just make it a little bit weaker? And that way we can give it to younger and younger, right? Of course. Another theory that I've thought about in my mind is quite possibly, that what they're thinking about doing is maybe going into another country and doing like they did Muammar Gaddafi and doing like they did the fellow that was over there, Saddam. Maybe they're thinking about doing something like that, and well, it would behoove them to distract you. Why do I say that? Well, because of rhetoric like this. This is the rhetoric that I'm talking about. Biden says that Putin cannot remain in power in a fiery speech on Ukraine war. This came at 4:02 Central Daylight Time. Well, he says that he just can't stay. He wants him out. Quote, U.S. President Joe Biden said that Russia's leader Vladimir Putin cannot remain in power, close quote, in Poland on Saturday. Remarks a White House official said later were meant to prepare the world's democracies for extended conflict over Ukraine, not backed regime change in Russia. I doubt that very seriously. I doubt that very, very seriously, because this seems like you are setting everybody up. That's exactly what it appears to be to me. When you say that he cannot remain in power in a fiery speech, it sort of reminds me of the rhetoric that was taking place long before Russia ever went into Ukraine. Well, then I feel that we were being watered like a very well plowed field. Because every week that led up until the February incident, we were hearing all different kinds of information about him moving in and this amount of troops. And we seem to have a lot of information that really query me. How would we know all of that? I thought to myself. But when I think about the fact that the propaganda is very alive and it's very well and alive here in the United States, and that the Smith-Mundt Act being changed and edited and repealed in a way now allows us to receive the same exact propaganda that would be used against countries other countries that we were attempting to put information out so that they would believe it and look the other way while we went in another way. Well, that's exactly why I think that right now you're seeing Family Matters and you're seeing this 18th cousin removed a few times because he's got to, let's see, and I'll read this to you. The reason why you're allowing this to be seen, they're allowing this to be seen is because they don't mind throwing them under the bus if it means that they're going to be able to get the greater good for them. Exactly. Now, what do I mean when I say that about Trump and about Clinton? Well, most of you, because you're so smart here on this channel, that I know that you guys will remember this when I bring it up to you. Who remembers this? Now, this was from 2015, August 27th, 2015 to be exact. It says, let me show you. Well, I can't really show you, but I'm going to read it to you, okay? Let me get nice and comfortable. And I think dinner's almost done. Somebody's cooking in there. Okay, so it says, I'm just going to read the nuts and bolts, which will be these 3 bullet points and a little bit that follows after that. It says, Trump through his mother and Clinton through her father are related. The pair of remember the date, presidential frontrunners share 18th great grandparents. Ancestor John Gaunt was the son of King Edward III at the beginning of what became War of Roses secession debacle. Presidential candidate Donald Trump may criticize rival Hillary Clinton regularly, but the Republican and Democratic frontrunners are actually distant relatives. Both the real estate tycoon and the former Secretary of State are direct descendants of the 14th century first Duke of Lancaster, John of Gaunt, and his third wife, Catherine Swynford, according to the ancestry site myheritage.com. So what does that mean? That means that they were always related. We already knew that. But there's also one key pivotal point that for such a time as this information with regards to a lawsuit or with regards to him finally coming out and taking out the second part of the very nice people duo, okay, husband and wife. All right, they're very nice people. I'm not going to go after them because they're very nice people. But this is the reason why they're doing it now, because they need you distracted. They need you distracted just in case he decides that, well, I need to go ahead and make sure that these people are very well aware that I want him out of office and throw that out there. All right? Fiery speech that says that he made in Poland, he must not remain. Really? Okay. That part and the part that says, now I need to throw my son under the bus and make sure that he suffers, because we need to have some type of argument. We need to have some type of distraction, because what's about to happen next, these people just might not agree with. But if we do it under cover of night, like we've always done, and they don't expect it because they're over here looking to the left when they need to be looking over here on this side, we'll have them right where we want them. You guys think about it. It's just my perspective. But I want to thank each and every one of you for being here today. I want to thank you for supporting Headlines with a Voice, TLP Headlines with a Voice, and the Lockhart Perspective here on YouTube. Thank you for each and every one of you sharing this out, because we do need to build this channel back up. Yeah, we do. We lost a few, but that's okay. My sister is not here with us, and we know that with her being here, the channel will continue to flourish. So we need to build this channel back up. And you can help me by doing that, by sharing this if you do have a YouTube channel yourself. And you can also share it on Twitter. Yeah, you can share it on Twitter. You can share it on anywhere you can. For the Lockhart group, the Felicia Lockhart group, I want to thank each and every one of you. And I want you to remember what we always say, that man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of the Most High Yah. You guys continue to take care of yourselves. Take care of yourself first. And then after you do that, you can then take care of somebody else. And until we see each other again, please continue to be blessed. Take care.
Lockhart Perspective.